Okay, we've got some tennis content to do. It's not often I get to do tennis content, but Andy Murray has announced this morning that he is to retire from tennis after the Paris Olympics. Fantastic 19-year professional career. I remember watching him in 2005 at Wimbledon in that quarterfinal against David Nalbandian, and that was his breakthrough. That was his breakthrough tournament, 2005 Wimbledon. He would go on to have 3 Grand Slam titles, 46 ATP Tour titles, 14 Masters 1000 titles, and 2 Olympic golds. So, not a bad career. It just so happened that when he was at the top of his game, so was Roger Federer, Rafa Nadal, and a certain Novak Djokovic. Just imagine what he could have achieved. If, for example, Federer and Nadal and Djokovic hadn't obviously achieved what they have in the sport, and B, injuries. Injuries have been a curse for Andy Murray since around 2017. He's had hip resurfacing, sort of like a mini hip replacement. The type of hip operation he's had, amongst some other injuries he's had ankle problems, he's had knee problems, but the hip operation he's had, you generally see that in someone who's come off a motorcycle at high speed and survived a high speed motorcycle accident. So you do see motorcycle racers have that type of operation. We also see that type of hip resurfacing with rugby league, rugby union and ice hockey players, and generally when they have that type of operation, their careers are curtailed, where they basically have to give up playing. So for Andy Murray to have played on after having that surgery and still continue to play at a reasonably high level, admittedly not at the same level he was when he was world number 1 and in the top 4 or 5 in the world, but that's a testament to his character. Now, he was world number 1 in total for 46 weeks throughout his career. He ended 2016 ranked world number 1. So he did actually finish 2016 as the world's best player. He was ranked in the top 10 pretty much continuously apart from 1 month between July 2008 and October 2017. That is his purple patch. He was no lower than ranked number 4 in 8 out of the 9 years in that period. That is ridiculous. There was only 1 month in that period as well. He was ranked outside the top 10. So he was a very consistent player for the better part of a decade. A decade he was a very, very consistent player. It just so happened Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal and Novak Djokovic. Well, Djokovic hadn't really hit his peak at this point, but Nadal and Federer were the dominant two, and Djokovic was going to become the dominant force that he's become over the last decade. He was starting to become quite dominant. So in any other era, he would have been the top player in the world, no doubt. Now, Grand Slams. Ironically, he wins the US Open first in 2012, but he wins Wimbledon twice in 2013 and 2016. So he ended a very long drought for men's singles at Wimbledon, and especially in the what is classed as the Grand Slam Open era. So he got 3 Grand Slams, 2 at Wimbledon, 1 at the US Open. In total, 46 ATP Tour titles outside of the Grand Slams, and so that's a fair number of singles titles. 14 Masters 1000 titles as well. So very successful on the singles circuit. But it's the Olympics actually where he gets his first real major success with gold at London in 2012, the year before he wins Wimbledon for the first time, and the year he wins Wimbledon the second time when the Olympics is in Rio. He wins his second Olympic title, so a 2-time Olympic gold medalist. Now, his record in the doubles is not nowhere near as good as singles. Obviously his brother Jamie is a very successful doubles player in both the men's doubles and mixed doubles and has Grand Slams of his own, but because he's a doubles player, doesn't get the same recognition as his brother Andy. But there we go. So a very successful career that Andy Murray's had. To be fair, as I say, it was surprising that he decided to continue to play on following that hip resurfacing surgery. As I say, generally when sportsmen and women have that type of surgery, outside of racing motorcycles, for example, in contact sports and even in tennis, it's generally career over. When you have the surgery, that is just done for quality of life. The fact he persevered for a little bit longer, playing on the ATP Tour, is credit to his commitment and his will and his desire. He was a very driven individual. But I think he can see the writing on the wall. The fact that Rafa Nadal is also calling it a day this year as well. It is an end of an era. We've lost. Federer's retired. Nadal and Murray are hanging up the rackets this year, and then we'll have to see how long Djokovic plays on for, because he's started to pick up a lot of injuries as well. and there's starting to be a more competitive men's singles tour now. There's more players challenging for the 4 Grand Slams. So it's a very interesting era we're going into in men's tennis. But there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts on Andy Murray's career in the comments section below. I've got to do a video on Rafa Nadal as well when he decides to formally retire. He did say this is going to be his last year. Whether he goes on to the US Open at the end of the year, we shall wait and see. But there we go. So 2 of the biggest names of the last 20 years are going to retire this year. Obviously, Federer has retired a few years ago. And then it's just Djokovic. And then that era of tennis is done. And then we've got the next wave of talent coming through. And there are some really, really talented players on the men's tour right now. But there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts in the comments section below. And I'll have some more content for you guys very, very soon.